again, welcome back to Saturdays at Derek's. I'm Mike.
I'm Derek.
And we're here for entertainment purposes only. Any kind of sexual favors, purely implied. So, what do we got this week?
Well, we got a couple subjects. The Gamma trade show just happened, so they announced some new board game information.
Okay, and for the people who don't know what the Gamma trade show is, please explain.
It's where board game manufacturers come together and pitch their new stuff coming out for the next year. It's kind of like Comic-Con, but more for retailers.
Would it be more like E3 for
Yeah, it's kind of like E3 for board games. It's probably a good...
So, was there anything interesting at the Gamma trade show?
Well, the big things for me were the Fantasy Flight stuff. They announced some ship packs for Armada, which is like X-Wing, but like for the big scale ships.
Sure. Kind of like Epic 40K.
Yeah. And they announced the Star Destroyer and the Mon Calamari Battlecruiser.
Oh, cool.
And they also announced a Heroes and Rogue 8 ship pack, which has like the Millennium Falcon and Slave One and the IG-2000.
Oh, nice.
On the other Star Wars related games, they also announced expansion for Imperial Assault, which is like Descent, but with Star Wars. And you can also play a miniature game. And they've got some new character packs coming out as well, which are going to be R2-D2 and Boba Fett and C-3PO.
Oh, alright, cool. Nice.
The big one for you probably is going to be the Warhammer 40K. It's called Forbidden Stars, which is like a huge galactic.
Oh, was
battle.
that like the Empire building?
Yeah.
Thing? Yeah.
Yeah, where you can. It's non-symmetrical units or forces. You got the orcs, the elf guys.
The Eldar.
The Eldar, the Chaos, and the Imperials.
Oh,
and
alright, cool.
They're asymmetrical, so they all function differently.
Yeah.
And you try and take over the galaxy, basically.
Do you know what it's going to cost?
$100 is the suggested retail. So on Amazon, probably about 80.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like it's got a lot to it, so
yeah,
might be worth investing in.
It's okay. The Imperial Assault box is like that thick and like that big, so it's going to be the same size box, and there's a lot of plasticky pieces in it, and it's Fantasy Flight, so everything's going to be...
So it's going to be good looking.
Yeah, it's going to be
really
very
quality parts.
Very, very well produced. Other things that were interesting, there's the line of Dungeons & Dragons Dungeon Crawler games, where you play against the game, basically. They've already got Ravenloft, Drizzt, and Ashardalon. They have announced a new one called the Temple of Elemental Evil, which is based on the old Super module.
Yeah.
Which looks really cool. Let me see what else was there. There's a 2-player Seven Wonders thing coming out, which we haven't really played Seven Wonders yet, but it looks interesting. It's the Seven Wonders doesn't really work very well for 2-player games. Zombicide Season 3 is going to come out, which is the new expansion. IDW is bringing out a Godfather game.
Oh, really?
Which is going to be it's kind of plays kind of like the Resistance, or Werewolf, where you're trying to deduce who is what and take them out.
Yeah.
Upper Deck is releasing 2 new expansions for their Legendary, Marvel Legendary. Fear Itself, which is a small box, and then the Secret Wars, which is a big box expansion. And it's going to follow through with the Secret Wars.
The original Secret Wars, or the one that's coming out?
The one that's coming out. And they also released that they're going to release Predator for the Legendary line, and it's fully compatible with the Aliens line.
Oh, cool.
So that's going to be pretty freaking cool. let me see. There's going to be a Firefly game called Shiny Dice, which is a Firefly dice game. Which should be pretty cool.
Right. No, it sounds good. I definitely, more on your radar than mine because I didn't even know that show existed.
And that's also from Upper Deck.
Yeah. Although, just an odd thought about games. Do you find it strange that nobody has ever created Pazak? Actually made it like for the computer or the phone. I mean, we've got the technology now to actually do the randomizer and shit. I think that would be awesome.
It's kind of been touched on in... Wasn't kind of touched on in the original Knights of the Old Republic? The very first Knights of the Old Republic game?
God,
I'm pretty sure you could go into a bar and play it.
That was so long ago. But still... Would you like an app for it?
Yeah, I mean,
if you had it.
It's got to be coming. Or the little hollow chest would be kind of cool, too.
Mm-hmm. No, they could throw together a Star Wars gaming package.
Yeah, that has, like, the myriad of Star Wars games that get mentioned in the movies and the expanded lore.
But just, like, barely touched on and then they move on.
Yeah.
Those would be cool. I think, and they get over big with the geek community. Yeah,
well, I love board games. We've collected board games since. Well, I've collected board games since I was extremely young. And role playing games. And there was a time when I would just go into Pegasus Games just to buy a game. When I first started
kind of walk around and soak it all in. Well, walk being a relative term because Pegasus was so goddamn small back then.
Yeah, you elbow your way through.
You were going to be better off on your hands and knees crawling between people's legs. But anyway,
but that was like the big interesting news for. And there's another game called Book of Terror. It was the Big Book of Terror, Big Book of Madness. I think it was Big Book of Madness.
It's a Cthulhu thing?
No, but it's a... what I gather from it is... It's kind of Cthulhu-y. There's a big book that you kind of randomize. It's like a couple of decks that you randomize the cards in it. Mm-hmm. And you read it like a story. It's cooperative, and the goal is to fix all the problems with the book correctly before you get to the end. Otherwise, you'll never be able to close it.
Oh.
It looks pretty cool. You get characters with like special powers and stuff.
All right.
It looks interesting. It's something that it was one of the newer things that kind of caught my eye. That made me go, oh, that might be cool.
All right. Well, maybe we'll check that out.
And there was a huge surgence of kid and family friendly games. That, from what I understand, all the people that had stuff there, all had like a family-friendly game.
Yeah, well, and
which aren't necessarily what our speed is, but it is kind of noteworthy.
No,
something that's been going on this year.
But it makes sense. Any entertainment media business, the minute it starts gaining in popularity, and board gaming has. In recent years, it's been making a real comeback. Some corporate fuck is going to get a hold of it, and his focus groups are going to tell him, children and families, that's where your money's at.
Yeah,
it's the same thing that's happening in professional wrestling, man. But it used to be fucking cool, and now it's kind of lame and
it's good though. I mean, it's good because it does. Board gaming is one of those things that does really tend to bring the family together, and it gives it's a family activity that everybody can do. Whereas like video games and stuff, you're kind of like just sitting there watching somebody else play with you.
Yeah. Well, and I'm not saying it like it's a bad thing. I'm just saying it more like it's a fact. Because if you examine the other side of it, more money coming into the company means that they'll be more willing to loosen up money to give to project teams with the strange ideas.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's how we get more shit like Cards Against Humanity.
Which Tabletop's Cards Against Humanity episode a couple weeks ago.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Aisha Taylor, is that right?
Yeah, Aisha Tyler.
Tyler, blasted.
Whatever.
Anyway,
that
hilarious.
chick that used to be on The Soup.
Yeah, Archer. She's on Archer now.
Yeah, okay.
It was just a great episode. Well done, Will. But yeah,
we will play more games. Show in Madison at the Lion Energy Center.
Yeah, blast. We've done it 2 months in a row now.
Yeah. Well, now I gotta drive to Madison and get tickets for the next show.
Oh, you didn't get them at the actual show?
No, didn't I tell you about that?
No.
Yeah, they take debit cards at the merch table, but not at the table where you buy tickets for the next bout. That's cash only, and I gave them pretty much all my cash when I first got there to pay for the shirt that I had ordered last month. So, I do not have tickets for the next show.
Okay.
So. Although, again, if we're going to go looking for that shop tomorrow.
Oh, yeah.
We can just swing through wherever and get them. So.
Okay.
But great show. I'm a roller derby fan. Our brother Dan and I used to go every month, and I haven't really been back since 2012. So, like the last two shows has kind of been me getting back into it.
Yeah. I only watched it on television on occasion back in the 80s.
Did you watch the one in the 90s where they had the
90s,
the bank track where there was like an open section they had to jump across?
Oh no, it had to have been the 80s because we were like little kids when we used to watch it.
Yeah.
On like
no, I remember watching it. Yeah, because it would be bumpered right up against wrestling.
Yeah, and I always found it fun to watch, but I was never like hugely into it.
Yeah.
And then you guys were talking about when you guys were going.
Yeah.
A few years ago, when you would take the kids and Dad would always have pictures. But yeah, I mean it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, it is. It's a good show. I think they might be a little bit lean on ticket sales these days because the halftime show isn't quite the production that it used to be.
Yeah.
Because it used to be they would like bring different acts in to do the halftime show. Because I remember once they had like belly dancers, and there was like this roller skate dancing troupe one time, and they were bringing some fairly cool shit for halftime.
Yeah. Well, the show that we went to last month was sold out. This one not so much. But I thought the teams were going to be. I thought the Unholy Rollers versus the Reservoir Dolls was going to be. I mean, it wasn't a poor contest, but I thought it was going to be a little bit more tight than it was.
I was not as surprised, and maybe it's just because I've watched more derby bouts with you, but I just from the performance last month, I could definitely tell you that
the Dolls were kicking.
The Reservoir Dolls is by far the strongest team this year.
Yeah, I mean, they've got some serious power players.
Power players and you can
players.
And
Mouse is fast.
Well, and you can tell that they practice a lot because it's not just the offense with the jammers, but their defense is incredibly tight. You can really tell that team drills a lot with defense. And when you've got strong defense holding back the opposing jammer while you've got a pigtailed bullet of a girl like fucking Mouse just buzzing around the track knocking out grand slams, you've got a hell of a combination. And it's not just Mouse. There are several really good jammers on that team.
Yeah.
So it's not just the one girl, because Charlie Hustle less bouncy than Mouse, but it just incredibly solid, and she usually has a lot of speed and just an ability to kind of see a path through the pack. And just take it and be gone before they know she was there.
Yeah.
And again, there are still other really credible jammers on that team. It didn't surprise me that they won, and this is, I'm an Unholy Rollers fan, so it's disappointing, but not at all shocking.
Yeah, and once again, I mean, it was still a fun match to watch.
Yeah, because it wasn't really a blowout by any length, but just through the consistency of the play, you could tell where it was going.
Yeah, and then you had the quad squad, and the Vixens were playing off in the first round, the first match, and that was the first like 10 minutes of that match were just hectic.
Yeah, no, it was shocking because there were bodies all over.
They didn't put down enough resin or whatever to make the tires sticky.
Yeah,
at the beginning, so like even the refs were like falling all over the place.
Yeah, it was nuts. Probably the first 5 or 6 jams.
And they were playing really hard too.
They were being really rough and asses were bouncing all over the track. It was pretty intense.
Yeah. Both pretty good games. The first batch between the Quad Squad and the Vixens was more of a blowout though.
Yeah.
It was like 140 point game.
Yeah. I don't remember the exact score.
Well, no, actually, maybe it was like a 60 point game because I think they came back a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, all in all, good matches.
It was a very, very good show.
And there's a lot of really cool interaction between the players and the fans too.
There always is. It's one of the few sports where you can get really close to the players. They got sectioned out areas where you can sit on the floor right next to the track. I've seen girls land in people's laps before. Not well because those skates are coming first and they're really heavy.
Otherwise you'd be down there.
Yeah, man.
Trying to catch some chicks.
Yeah, it's not like National Lampoons. You ain't gonna catch that girl and go, "Thank you, God." I mean, you might, but you'd be saying it through broken teeth.
Yeah.
Or you could, and generally,
and at our age, that could hurt. We get hurt a lot more than we did 20 years ago.
Yeah, it might hurt you. But yeah, it's great, and fan interaction is really good. I mean, because the minute the bout's over, you can just go up and chit chat with the girls, and and they have like photo sessions and autograph signings afterwards. So it's very inclusive with the fan base.
Yeah,
and it can get interesting. It's when Dan and I first started going, there was actually a couple of guys that showed up dressed as Daft Punk, and that was pretty awesome. And there would just be people in costumes here and there, not quite a comic book convention kind of setting, but you'd see a handful of them.
Yeah. So we're gonna keep going. And who knows? Maybe
absolutely. No, I hope
we'll do a costume one of these days.
Oh, maybe we'll do a costume. I'm hoping that we can snag interviews with some of the girls. Anyway, so Fox has announced that they're bringing back the X-Files.
Which Fox? Fox Mulder, perhaps.
Did you look further into that yesterday after we talked?
I watched something on the Nerdist.
Okay.
The podcast.
So was I right or was you right?
It's not a reboot. It's going to be 6 episodes, carrying over the story. So it's going to continue the story where it's 6 episodes for another 6 episodes.
Yeah.
And at least that's what they've been picked up. And it all actually started, I guess, with Gillian Anderson talking about wanting to do it.
Huh.
And then Chris Carter was like, yeah. And then Mulder was like, fuck yeah.
All right.
Or Duchovny.
Yeah.
Whatever his
yeah.
name is.
No, he has a name. It's cool. We get it. And I know that because I watch Californication.
Yeah. But yeah.
Because it's like watching Dan. Am I wrong?
The 1 or 2 episodes I've caught, yeah, I see it.
Yeah. It's like skinny middle-aged Dan. Banging underage chicks and punching motherfuckers out.
I told you I didn't want to mosh! Fucker!
Right. Okay, inside stories that nobody out there is going to get. But anyway, no, I think it's cool. I like the idea. The one thing that kind of worries me is that the X-Files was very much a 90s show. If you gather my meaning. It just, the feel, the presentation, the mood in America isn't what it was in 1995.
No. But in a lot of ways it kind of is. I kind of get where you could still make it kind of relevant. I personally would have preferred a reboot.
Well, but I guess my question is, where will X-Files land in a landscape of reality television and procedurals?
Yeah. Well, I mean, X-Files was kind of one of the first kind of procedural program. I mean, it was one of the. I mean,
I don't think
I
wouldn't have.
That wasn't actually a soap opera, but it was one of the first prime time TV shows where they kind of carried on the same storyline from episode to episode, and you would get lore episodes where what happened was relevant to the overall story.
Right, or just your basic creature feature.
Whereas before that, it was like 80s stuff where you kind of had an overall arc, but each episode didn't really matter. Maybe somebody got married or had a kid or something, and it was relevant to the overall arc. But as a general rule, 80s television programs were very self-contained.
Very episodic, and they weren't necessarily beholden to their own canon.
Yeah,
like X-Files was.
Yeah, whereas X-Files actually developed a universe.
Yeah,
where it was a continued storyline.
I guess my thing is though, it was dark and broody with a lot of like quirky or gallows humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I just don't know how well that fits in a candy-coated 2015.
Yeah. And like I said, if they had rebooted it, it would have created more. You would have been able to gear it more towards today's culture. Maybe instead of aliens, it's like
Kardashians.
It's like an actual pure government conspiracy where they're like creating monsters or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Where instead of it's just a cover up, is they're actually creating the issue instead of just covering up the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, like underground government genetics experiments.
Yeah, kind of like a.
It all sets off when something
Vibe.
escapes.
Yeah.
A what vibe?
Kind of more of a fringe type vibe.
Oh, fringe. I thought you said fridge.
Yeah, fringe vibe.
I was like, okay, he's either talking about a football player or he's talking about that scene from Crystal Skull. Because that's all I got.
But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. if they can write a good story, it'll be all right. I'd rather they were doing this than doing another movie, because the movies never felt. The movies kind of felt, I don't know, a little forced maybe.
Yeah.
Or overproduced. I don't know. I didn't enjoy the movies that much.
Well, and part of the problem with the movies for me is that most of them were so far removed from the TV show that over the course of the 10 years from the first movie to the second movie, you kind of lost the thread.
I think the first movie was just trying to patch things up.
I think, yeah, the first movie was
and then the second
intended to tie up a bunch of loose ends.
The second movie was supposed to be like a non-lore episode, which I couldn't get into it. I couldn't get into either of them.
Yeah.
The first movie bored me to death, and the second movie was just uninteresting.
So they were both boring.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
But in different ways.
You have a good way of rephrasing boring.
It's boring, but in a different way. Boring. The first one was just so talky, and then the second one just didn't even matter.
Yeah.
So, and by then I had already gotten kind of worn out on X-Files.
Yeah. I kind of got worn out on it when Mulder disappeared and they brought in the T-1000.
Yeah.
That's where they sort of lost me. I just kind of drifted away from the show at that point because, frankly, I didn't give a shit about the T-1000.
Yeah, it was kind of like when Eric Foreman left the 70s show.
Sure.
And it was just like, why is this show even still on?
Because you still had Laura Prepon.
Yeah, Mila Kunis.
No, I said Laura Prepon.
And Mila Kunis.
If you're going to be a bitch about it.
They're both cute.
Sorry, I guess I like my girls a little curvier.
Yeah. I like girls, period. They're fun to look at.
Periods? It's interesting. I can't wait to see it. I'm just a little bit worried about how well it's going to be received by the public in 2015. You know, it's much like if you show The Crow to a kid who's, 15 years old now, he's going to go, why is it so dark? What's with the stupid leather trench coats on everybody? What the fuck?
This movie's emo.
Well, yeah.
No, it's goth. No, it's emo. Look, he's crying. He's crying on a cross. You don't get much more emo than that.
Yeah, now cue the world's wussiest arm wrestling match. But no, I'm interested. I want to see it. I hope it does well. I'm just a little bit worried that the vibe isn't going to be right anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that may be from the two featured films that were mediocre, I guess.
Yeah.
Because they weren't terrible, they just kind of fell flat.
Yeah.
But you've raised your eyebrows as though you're about to tell me that shit was awful.
I don't... Awful might not be the right word. Just uninspired.
Yeah,
the movies just felt uninspired to me.
Well, they didn't feel like they meant a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
Even the first one, which was supposed to tie up a lot of the mysteries.
Mm-hmm. Kind of felt like the last episode of Lost.
Ooh. Ooh, harsh.
You didn't even make it to the last episode of Lost.
You're right, I didn't, but I heard all kinds of shit about how fucked up that was.
It was just kind of like... You kind of knew what was coming. Even though you didn't know what was coming, I mean, everybody had already been guessing that they were all dead. So, it was just kind of like it happened. It was kind of like, okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I was so far removed from it that the first time Dan mentioned Dharma, I thought he meant the comedy.
Dharma and Greg?
Yeah. I was like, that chick was on Lost? Really?
Ooh, Jenny Elfman. Or Jenna Elfman.
Jenna Elfman. No, she's a cutie.
All those legs.
Oh, you said those legs.
Yeah,
Okay.
all those legs.
Oh, I thought you called her a slag.
Oh, that's slag. You've been misshoned.
Deal with it.
Had to try and sneak that in there someplace. Girls' periods. Save it for later.
If you're just throwing that away, can I?
Just going through sanitary napkin dispensers at the local
You,
store.
sir, are a sick fuck. And I think we've lost the thread of the X-Files.
I need to cut that part out.
So... I'm not a number. I'm a free man.
My arm got into it. Gotta get over on the couch a little bit further. Make like you're escaping.
Who is number one? No, you can't take me back to the village, you motherfucker.